right, man. Kick this off. Introduce yourself. Tell people what you're all about, what you do, and we'll go from there.
Okay, well, Vernon Williams. A lot of people know me as V Will on Instagram.
Yep.
Professional natural bodybuilder, part-time powerlifter. So yeah.
Part-time, eh? Just part-time?
Just part-time, man. Things are going good, but part-time. Bodybuilding is definitely, that's the bread to the butter for me. That's where it all started. So I got to stay close to the roots, man.
Yeah, for sure. All right, man. Start with that. Start with your history with bodybuilding. How far does it go back? Where'd you start? How'd you get into it? Get into all that for me.
Okay. So it goes back all the way to 2012, man. 2012 was the first time I competed. How did I get into it, man? I guess, believe it or not, I've been weight training now for, I would say 19 years, man.
Woo!
19 years between, grade school, playing sports and everything like that.
Yep.
And it was just an avenue for me, when I figured out that, basketball and football wasn't going to be like a full-time thing.
Right.
Actually, in high school, when I was around 17, 18, I had aspirations to play college football, and it started feeling a lot like a business. It didn't feel as much as it was when I was younger fun. It felt like something that I had to do.
Yeah.
And, I always liked the training aspect, the weight training. So for me, that part never really felt like a lot of politics and stuff. It just felt like something that it was just like get in there and get it done. So
totally.
It kind of trickled into that, and, kept weight training, and people told me I had potential. Let's see, and one thing led to another, and next thing you know, I was on stage, man, and it kind of worked out pretty good for me in that aspect.
Sweet. So tell me about that first show experience. Everybody's got usually a good story about their first show, so please share yours.
So I see that you do bodybuilding as well. So believe it or not, my very first show was physique.
Me too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So then so I did physique, and I think it had a lot to do with just the idea of getting into trunks. A lot of people say, well, the physique guys don't train legs. That wasn't the case, man. That wasn't the case at all. It just was just the idea of, man, who gets into what guy in real life other than Mr. Olympia or something like that gets into posing trucks. So
totally,
it was kind of, and then I did the physique, and after I got the pictures and everything, I was like, wow, you're way too stacked to be a physique guy.
I'm built.
So,
how old were you at the time? How old are you?
What's that?
How old were you when you first stepped on stage?
My very first time that I stepped on stage was, that would have been 6 years ago. So I was around 27, 26.
Okay.
Yep. That's awesome. Another misconception, and in natural bodybuilding, I always tell people with time, time is your best friend in the sport, man. Like, you can only get better and better with time. I mean, literally, it could trickle all the way into your 50s, man.
It's crazy.
Of course, to me, the peak time to gain the most muscle, you have a peak time, and I would say it's in your mid-20s and stuff. But I still feel like, the gains are slow as you get older, but that maturity, that muscle maturity starts really starting to come in. So, I was 26 years old. I probably had about 10 years of weight training at the time. And, I thought that, I would do good in physique, and I placed dead last, man, out of...
What?
Man, yeah. I placed dead last. So, I think 16th place. Yeah, it was 16th place, last place in my height class. It wasn't a tested show, so it was a big show. It was an experience, man. It was chaos backstage. I think the funnest part of that was the process of completely not knowing a goddamn thing and just prepping. I think that was the fun thing. Is just it's almost like with bodybuilding, you pretty much set a goal, and you might not know anything, but you reach out to all the different avenues and you just start learning. And at the time, the avenue around that time wasn't really social media. It was just coming into play. It was go to the store, buy a Muscle and Fitness magazine and see what, somebody that weighs 260 pounds
do Kai Green's back workout.
Right, see what he's eating, and you try to eat that, and see if it works for you. So that was like slamming into a brick wall real quick, and that's what really opened my eyes to kind of just trying to really understand the other aspect as far as science based,
Yep.
Knowledge based research, and that kind of led me to 3DMJ. If you're familiar with them,
am I familiar with them?
Yeah, so that was my first show, man. So it was fun, but it was a horrible experience, man. I didn't even tan. Baby oil, baby oil, a little pump up, and I feel like I look pretty good, but like I said, way too much muscle. Didn't know what the heck I was doing.
Do you think that played a role in it?
What's that?
Do you think that played a role in it, that you were maybe like too built for physique at the time? Like physique, I feel like physique when it first came in was more of like that beach boy look. Like now some of the guys are big.
Yeah,
right?
Some of the guys now are a lot bigger. So
yeah.
But I think, I'm 5'5", so I think as a bodybuilder, it kind of helps me because, at my height, I have that really dense.
Yeah.
I really, to me, I don't have much of the beach, the length and everything, the long torso and stuff like
You're
that.
just stacked.
I have a really dense look. So, and even with, whether you're short or tall with bodybuilding, I tell, some of the tall guys that I know, I'm like, when you're on that stage, you want to have the thickest look, and it has a lot to do with posing.
Yep.
If you are really straight up, sometimes it might make you look long and trim, versus if you kind of compact yourself down like in a side chest or something like that.
Yeah.
So it works for me being with my height and the size that I am.
Totally. So tell me about that first prep. How'd you handle that? Were you self-coached? Did you have a coach? Did you wing it? Like, what'd you do?
I had a coach, man. I had a magazine, and the magazine, and I read the magazine, and it said day one, eat tomatoes, spinach, broccoli, and tilapia, and repeat, and you will look like this. So
perfect.
That was the process. My very first show, man, and it was terrible, man. It was terrible. Energy was low. I think I was running off of pure motivation, man.
Yeah.
It was pure motivation. There was no knowledge involved in it, so I wasn't really optimizing anything I was doing. And it's interesting because my brother was, he was more into the social media, and that's when YouTube and things like that started coming apart.
Yeah.
And he's the one that kind of introduced me to, he told me, he said, "Man, there's a guy, Matt Ogus.
Yeah.
There's Coach 3DMJ. Check him out." And I took the time out and I looked and I was like, okay, this, I had never heard of flexible diet and macros. It was just, if you want to look like this, eat this, that, and that.
Yeah.
And that's what, when you're goal oriented, you're like, okay, well, I can do that.
Totally.
So, that's how that worked out. And like I said, it was terrible, man. Energy was low. I really believe that, in a prep, you couldn't eat sugar or sodium, man. So there was no sodium. So needless to say, obviously I was really depleted the entire time.
Yeah.
So it definitely wasn't a good experience, man.
So, okay. So 2012, you basically slowly kill yourself. Get that first show. Yeah. What happens next? Do you take a year off? Are you educating yourself? Then what?
So right after that show, I wasn't for sure if I was going to do any of it again. I wasn't for sure, but I did. I got right back in the gym. Was training.
Yep.
And then I remembered watching, I don't remember what year it was, but the Olympics were on, and it was Olympic wrestling.
Okay.
And so obviously I didn't have the nutrition down, right? So the nutrition wasn't down, so I was training really hard. I was plateauing on a lot of things. I had the muscle size, but I just felt like it wasn't growing. I was doing high-intensity cardio 4 or 5 times a week.
Yep.
And I was doing cardio one day at the gym, and I saw the Olympics was on. There was an Olympic weightlifter, and he had this 3D just full muscle bellies. And I was like, man, what is going on? I'm training every single day.
Yeah.
I'm doing cardio. Why do I look so flat and depleted? You know? And that's when I found it was like, the hell with it. I'm going to reach out. And that's when I reached out to 3DMJ.
Nice.
And
so what year was this? What year would you have reached out?
That was mid-2012. Mid-2012 at the probably close to the end of 2012. And I've been working with them since then, man. And
that's sick.
And so what I did was when I got with Jeff Alberts has always been my primary coach, but when I got with them in 2013, 2012, we took a year and a half off, and it was just a surplus, but it was a real surplus.
Yeah.
It was, because prior to that, I always believed you have to stay lean. You have to stay lean, and lean was, for me now, I've been in the off season now, surplus for 2 years, and I'm still respectively lean, but
you still got abs.
I'm not to the point. I'm always in a surplus, and I'm ensuring that I'm not trickling over too fat.
Yeah.
The strength is still increasing. Lean, and I'm gaining more lean body mass. So that wasn't the case. It was high intensity cardio every day. Some days little to no carbs, and this is all when I was not in season.
Yeah,
yeah. It was just trying to maintain, I guess, what people would call an acceptable look.
Yeah,
which is completely wrong. So I took a year off, and I got I stepped on stage with bodybuilding, 2014. 2014. Yeah, 2014 was my first year, and the same year that I went pro.
Wow.
Which was, that was kind of unreal. What wasn't expected, but
so what show was that?
That was here in Texas, in San Antonio. That was it was the Alamo Showdown. It's a show. I don't know if you're familiar with Miles Stovall, but he's been around. He's a pro in the Natties. He's been around for a while. He used to do a show here in Texas, and it was probably our biggest show in Texas. It had usually brought out about 40 bodybuilders.
Wow.
So that was, and as some of the shows you can't always be guaranteed that, you know what I mean? So and we're competitive in nature, so it was good. It was a good experience, man. And that's when I went pro, man. And
is that with the WNBF?
That was with the WNBF, yep.
Yeah. What weight class and stuff are you in? You're 5'5", so you can't be too heavy.
Yeah, I started out originally in the lightweights.
Yeah.
I've been slowly working myself up to the middleweight. So this last season in 2016, I was a middleweight class.
Yeah.
So to a degree, that's good. Obviously, I'm building more mass, but I feel like I can be more of a threat in the lightweight.
If you can be the top end of the lightweights.
Yeah, the highest, the heaviest in the lightweight would be great for me, but it's tough. It's really tough. I mean, you done bodybuilding, so you know how preps are, and for me, muscle mass, building a muscle mass has never been. That's always been easy.
Okay.
My Achilles is getting lean enough, and the crazy thing is, a lot of people will look at some of my pictures and they'll be like, "Dude, you're shredded," and I was, but when you get to a certain level, shredded is just. It's just not good enough.
Everybody's shredded.
That much more shredded. Yeah. So I usually compete around 164, 165. But honestly, if I could ever get down to about the 158s, 159s, and load up from there, it would just be great. But with anything else, there's when you prep, there's so many things that you have to, so many barriers that you have to overcome and just keep pushing through. So
So when you won your pro card, you were a lightweight.
I was a lightweight.
That's
150, 152.
Woo!
Yeah, man.
Giant killer.
Made some progress. Yeah.
That's sick.
Giant killer. Oh yeah.
That's awesome.
That was a good show. I went against the guy. He was oh man, I don't remember his name, but he was Mr. Texas heavyweight. And it was a good fight, man. It was a real good fight. So
cool.
It's hard to forget that one.
Nice. So since 2016, then you've been in off season. You mentioned.
Yep, 2016. And after I got from WNBF Worlds in 2016, it didn't go the way that I wanted. I'm also an IPE pro. I think IPE is I think the novice is NANBF. Okay. I might be wrong, but yeah. So I did 2 worlds in 2016, the IPE Worlds. And I did the WNBF Worlds, and I got 3rd in the lightweights in the IPE Worlds. WNBF Worlds, the guys that came over from Europe, man, gosh,
Them Europeans, eh?
Yeah, they were seasoned and conditioning. They take conditioning to another level.
It's nuts.
That's the one thing about doing the WNBF Worlds is, you get to go against people from all over the country, and I'm telling you now, those guys from the UK, they take conditioning to levels that we usually come with the size, but the conditioning is definitely in their favor. So that didn't really go in my favor that year. And as soon as I got out of prep, believe it or not, I was ready to go again. I remember having a meeting with Jeff, and we talked, and I was like, 4 or 5 months, off-season surplus, and then let's go. And as a coach, he was with me. He was like, and then about a week later, we talked again, and he was like, I talked to my wife, and I told her that I was going to tell you this, but I was going to beg you to take off, because we had been going at it since 2013 with the biggest off-season outside of when I got with 3DMJ was about a 6-month surplus, man. So this was the first time that he was just like, just lay off of it
chill.
And just chill and, still train, still do everything, and it'll be the best thing for you, man. Because, work life, balance is like very important.
Yeah.
And at times you could get in so deep that you just lose sight of all of that, So
what do you do? What do you do for work?
I'm actually a process tech, so I work in the oil industry, man. So full-time process tech.
Yeah, so you're busy.
That's a big market in Texas. So
no doubt,
the bread and the butter right there.
Cool. So talk to me about powerlifting then a little bit. So obviously now you're lifting a lot of heavy shit. I was looking at your Instagram for about the last 10 minutes before we started talking, and I'm like, my God.
Well, I mean, as far as the powerlifting goes, it was a smooth transition, man. It was nothing. It wasn't something that it was just I was complete shell shock, because what my programming has been for the longest has been really based around big compound lifts.
Yep.
With a lot of accessory work for the bodybuilding. I think the carryover was just huge, because I had a lot of experience with a lot of that, and I had never been in a real full-blown surplus, So this is my first time in, I'm usually, with contest prep, I'm usually in the 170s, 160s most of the year.
Yep.
And this is my first time sitting in 185, 190 all the time. You know what I mean? So the strength just went way up. And I have a friend here locally, Johnny Candido, and he's good friends with a lot of the guys with 3DMJ, and he just kept on saying, man, you got the limbs, you got the body for powerlifting, man. You would do really good. And I said, so, and I finally just gave in and said, I haven't been competitive in 2 years, and I know that I wasn't ready to really get in a deficit and prep for a bodybuilding show. And I knew that, just doing the powerlifting was going to help bring up all those areas when I do get back to bodybuilding.
For sure.
So I was like, man, let's give it a go and be competitive. And it turned out crazy. First show, I had no expectations, other than just to try to beat my best. And I ended up, winning overall, had the highest Wilks in the first show. And so 2 shows in. Let's see, 2 shows in.
You've done 2 meets?
Yeah. I'm getting ready for the biggest one in 2 weeks. And
which one's that?
Going to be, that's Raw Nationals.
Doing the Raw Nats in 2 weeks.
Yeah, the Raw Nats. That's going to be nuts, man.
That's hype. Oh, I can't wait to watch that shit. That's sick.
Oh, yeah, man.
So what do you compete at, so if you're 180, 83 kg?
83 kg. Yep. Be doing 83 kg against some of the crazy 83 guys, man. It's a stacked class this year, man.
Is that against, do you follow Russell Orhe? Is he in that
Russell,
class?
Yeah, we all live in the same area, man. We're all in Houston area. So
yeah.
You can't, you know how this industry works. You can't be in the same area and not hear from the people that are really doing crazy shit,
He's strong dude, eh?
Yeah, definitely, man. So it's gonna be an experience, man. And that's what it's all about for me, is just giving my best and giving it at the highest level, man, whatever level that is, just knowing that I gave my best. So I'm excited, man.
That's awesome. Okay, so let's go into training, back in 2012 compared to your 2014 season. What kind of what changed between those two times? Obviously, you had a coach, 3DMJ. Right. They probably gave you a lot of knowledge. So what changed?
A whole lot of knowledge. So basically, in 2012, and if you're familiar with any of the muscle and fitness magazines and stuff like that, I was really following kind of a base off of that, and that was never about. It never was about building strength. It was more drop sets, hypertrophy, supersets. So although I was lifting decent weight, it was never anything. It was more of a pump. It wasn't just solidifying that dense muscle that you chase for in bodybuilding, man.
Yeah, exactly.
So the fatigue was always high. I was always tired, always tired, but it was always supersets, drop sets.
Were you sore as shit all the time?
Always sore. Always. And the crazy thing is I hardly get sore nowadays, and I used to think being sore was associated with
sign.
Growing, and it was completely wrong, man. It was, I'm hardly sore, but recovery is so big, recovery and progressively overloading, is a big thing.
I heard a quote. I can't remember who it was that said a quote, but it was like train hard but recover harder. And that for me is like just in my head all the time. I'm like if I'm sore the next day, I'm like stretching. I'll go to the gym and sit in the massage chairs. I'll have a hot shower. Like I'm doing everything to try to feel better.
Everything. That's right, man. And I mean, that's so important, man. And that's something that I feel like that was missing in the sport. Even in powerlifting, even if you go back to the West Side barbell days, it was just
beat the shit out of yourself.
Yeah, it's just beat the shit out of yourself and just keep doing it, man. And I think it's a good thing. Like Jeff and I had always talked about having, being able to have been part of that kind of old school bodybuilding and the new, because it kind of, to me, the one thing that being part of that did is it did build kind of a grit, because recovery is one thing, and it's interesting because somebody had talked about it today. Recovery is one thing, fatigue is another thing, but accumulated fatigue isn't necessarily associated with what some people would say injury or, hey, I can't train. It's just saying that, okay, you're building fatigue, and it's, and it's very important to use that, and channel that and go off of that. So, that's the kind of cool thing for me, is just knowing that, I still have the ability to, to be able to push through like some painful moments. But I know the difference between, okay, this is going to be a RP of a 9 and this is an injury. So the RP of a 9 and a little bit of fatigue in the morning, feeling like I got ran over by a truck, just means that I need to rest a little bit more. Like you said, do all the things, mobility, hot bath, all those things. You know what I mean? So that by the next day I could be, recovered. And that's another mistake that a lot of new people that are beginning to like come right into the sport, they go in and they try to give it all they got that first week. And then after that first week of training, they can't even walk, can't move, think they need to go to the hospital, and they're done. They're done with the gym. That's it. You know what I mean? So,
I think it's too, like, educating people on, like, injured versus sore. I think there's like I train clients. That's my full-time gig, and I've got a lot of new guys, like young kids coming in, and like, we did a good couple sets of bench last Monday, and he comes in on Wednesday. He's like, dude, I think I hurt my chest. I'm like touching, and I'm like, does that hurt? He's like, oh yeah. I'm like, it's just muscle. You'll be all right.
Right. It's just muscle. Yeah. And then technique also counts too. Technique is always a factor too. But yeah, that's what I noticed is a lot of the new kids that are kind of strictly based off of programming. They're really based off of a lot of data. So the moment that in real life they feel kind of bad, they're like, programming says that I'm not supposed to feel this way.
I shouldn't hurt.
Yeah, I shouldn't hurt. So I'm injured. So I'm out for 6 weeks. And it's like, okay, there's a fine line between, like you said, fatigued and injured, and you got to know the difference.
Totally. So now, fast forward 2016, what changed? Okay.
From 2016 to when I first started.
Yeah, so in 2012, you were pumping up. You were tired as hell. You were sore as shit. Fast forward 4 years, what's different?
Okay, so 4 years later, what is different is The training now is more of a, obviously I have a home gym. Also, I kind of, when I'm in the bodybuilding mode, I have an upper lower split.
Okay. By the way, I don't think I asked that. When you were in 2012, was it like the typical like chest day, back day, leg day, shoulder day? So a bro split?
Bro split. Absolutely. It was a bro split. It was absolutely that. And, basically, fast forward, I've just simplified things, man. I've simplified things, and I've realized that, I don't have to have a full-blown chest day to really develop my chest, because like we talked about is the recovery. So I don't need to spin my wheels, doing chest for 2 hours in one day, when I can do 2 movements on, say, Monday, and I can come back and do 2 movements and have, more strength and more energy to do those movements 3 times a week. 3 different times a week, versus trying to get 2 hours worth of chest fatigue and just frying it, to a degree, overtraining it, so basically just the periodization and, just going off of programming versus just kind of going in the gym and going off of whatever the hell I feel like doing, that day. And then, I mean, to be honest with you, 2012, after a gym session, it was nothing for me to, go have some McDonald's and say, well, I just worked out. I need food.
Yeah.
There wasn't a particular kind of food. It was just, I need food. You know? So that's the biggest difference.
Cool. You mentioned earlier, like, you're not nearly as sore as regularly now.
Right. That's correct.
Cool.
So recovery is much better. I'm 33 years old, man. So I do feel like I'm starting to get closer to that muscle, that dense muscle that I've been chasing. So
sweet.
That's been some of the changes.
That's awesome. Okay, let's compare diet now. 2012 to 2016. How's diet changed?
Man, diet has changed a lot. On my story today, I had what did I have this morning for breakfast? I had a protein mug cake, man, which is pancake mix loaded with protein, fat-free whipped cream.
Nice.
I love it. 2012, I wouldn't touch anything like that. 2012, when I really got into bodybuilding. So in the off season in 2012, obviously it was just eat whatever,
Right.
Chicken nuggets, cheeseburger, Big Mac. It's gonna get me big. That's not gonna get you big. It's just gonna get you fat as fuck. You know what I mean? So,
ain't that the truth?
Right. So basically now it's more, everything is macronutrients, and it's crazy because I always preach to people, yes, you want to count your macros. I believe in, dieting intuitively, not necessarily, because you do need to get your micros. You need your vegetables. You need your fruits, fibers. Those things are important.
Yep.
But at the same token, I feel like counting your macros is a good thing. And if you do it long enough, you can kind of just be able to intuitively, especially when you're not in a prep, you can intuitively do it and maintain a healthy lifestyle. So, being that I haven't been on stage and I haven't, I obviously right now I have to weigh 83 kilograms in 2 weeks.
Yep.
So macros, I flip that switch. It's on right now, so I'm just making sure that I make weight. But outside of that, it's just making sure that I stay within a range. And I always tell people, for me, food nowadays is like the Matrix, man. I see it in code, man.
Yeah.
Like, I literally, everything that's handed to me, I can pretty much have a idea of what I'm taking in.
Yep.
And and there's moments when there's family events or something like that where I turn that switch off. I have to. It's just I'm not seeing food for how much carbs, how much fat. I'm just seeing it as food itself. But when I'm in powerlifting mode, bodybuilding mode, like when I get off with you and I go train, after I'm done training, I'm thinking, okay, what are the macros that is going to optimize that workout that I just did for, muscle recovery, for, everything, so those are the things that changed from then to now. That back then, that was non-existent. It was, and this is how naive I was, man. So when I got the Muscle Fitness magazines back in 2012, there would be a picture of, I don't know, there'll be a picture of Jay Cutler.
Yeah.
and they're like, you eat this, you eat that, and you'll look like this. And I'm like, yeah, and I had no clue. I mean, I had I didn't even know the difference between enhanced and not enhanced. I just thought that these guys were just genetically
They're huge.
Yeah, so I'm like, if I eat like this, I said I never want to look like a Jay Cutler, but I do want to have some muscle size. And I'm like, so they're telling me to eat this. So if I eat this, and it's interesting because they wouldn't say, okay, cook your vegetables. They just said, for breakfast, have a bell pepper, have egg whites. And I had read so much things about sodium is bad, it bloats you, and so I literally would have a bell pepper, and I wouldn't even cook it in the egg white. I would just cut the bell pepper or eat it like an apple. Yeah. And I was like, man, I can't believe people live like this. I'm sitting in the kitchen eating the bell pepper like an apple, about to puke and shit.
You're like, this is bullshit.
Yeah, eating egg whites with no salt, no nothing, and I'm like, this. I don't know if this is.
And then you go look in the mirror and you're like, I do look bigger. Yeah.
And I was like, man, this is crazy. I'm like, I don't even know if it's worth it, man. But I had a goal. And that I followed through. I prepped for 6 weeks. My first show was a 6-week prep. I probably lost maybe, I don't know, 10 pounds.
Yeah.
Which now, interestingly enough, I usually am 30 pounds over stage weight.
Yep, me too. I'm about 30, 25 to 30 when I'm off season to when I'm on stage. Yep.
So when you're on stage, right, and I'm able to maintain that versus then I used to stay around about 5 to 10 pounds over what I considered stage weight, mind you. So I would only diet for about 4 to 6 weeks, get 10 pounds lighter, put some baby oil on, and call it good to go. So it's just a totally different learning experience, man. So diet now is, it's all macronutrient based. It's real flexible as far as off season, just trying to maintain a healthy, balanced lifestyle.
Yep.
But still just keeping conscious of that because for me it's nowhere near over with, man. The competitive side, man. So,
that's awesome. So with that in mind,
I've been even thinking about 2019. Like it's tough for me, man. It's tough for me because I got into powerlifting with no expectation. I'm a very competitive person, and the thing that I love about fitness, bodybuilding, and all that is just it's just so rewarding. And it's not just rewarding with the medals and all that stuff. It's rewarding when you find out what you're capable of.
Yeah, you put in the work.
Yeah, you put in the work, and sometimes you look back, like just like you said, you see me lifting all this crazy stuff on Instagram, and there's times where I look back and I don't even believe that I'm lifting that. And then it makes me wonder, well, shit, if I keep this up, then what am I capable of in time? And I'm like, I'm in it for the long game. And, it's not something that I get thrilled like, oh, I need to be lifting this much or I need to look this way in 2 months. I feel like it's like, man, if I stay healthy and I stick around, what is surprising me right now is just going to be like, yeah, I remember those days when that was actually a surprise, and now that's a warm up.
Oh yeah, totally. I did my first, I've done a few little fun unsanctioned meets. Okay. But I had my first meet last February, and it's an adrenaline rush. It's freaking music blasting, and everybody's cheering for it. It's a total switch from bodybuilding. It really is.
Bodybuilding, totally. It totally is.
But it's fun.
Where I'm at with it now is, I guess, just trying to decide. This is definitely going to be my last meet of the year.
Yep.
And then just deciding, if I'm going to go into bodybuilding in 2019, or if I'm going to see if I can take the squat up above. Maybe somewhere above 600, and who knows? Take the deadlift up to close to 800, man.
That's insane. That's insane, bro. So let's.
Again, I got Jeff Alberts. He's prepping, and we've always talked about a goal is to be on stage together. That would be amazing, man, to share the stage with him, man. So we'll see.
That's cool. So with that in mind, let's talk about goals. So I'm gonna jot that one down on stage with Jeff. What else? What else is on like your your bucket list? What do you want to do?
Okay, so on my bucket list, I mean, I would say in terms of bodybuilding, I still want that world title, man. I want the world. I feel like I've been that close to it, and I mean, I just want to get that world title in the WNBF, IPE. You know, that's really the primary goal right there. Is just to just achieve that, man.
Yeah.
That's a big deal to me, and just continue to just. For me, it's just something. It's just a healthy lifestyle. I'll give you an example. My dad is 54 years old, and he's been walking every day after work for the last 30 years. That's his. That's his thing.
That's his bodybuilding, right? That's the same thing. Yep.
Right, and you take that away from him, and it's probably gonna, and for him, that's a way that it just, when he goes to work and he gets off of work, that's how he turns that switch off and just clears his mind of everything. And for me, it's just bodybuilding, man. It's just, and it's not even about the vanity, or anything like that. It's just a lifestyle that I just enjoy. Whether I'm in the gym with friends or I'm right here at home, doing my thing. So, it's just to continue doing that and making healthy choices. And yeah, world title. See where I can go with this powerlifting thing.
Do you have any long-term goals with powerlifting? Like you kind of just fell into it. Say you place well at nationals. Would you say like in another couple of years hit the national stage again? Would that be realistic?
It could be.
Not saying no, not saying yes.
I would say I have a new respect for powerlifting. I used to think that it's crazy because I used to think that being in powerlifting, man, is just okay. A lot of guys do powerlifting because they just don't like dieting.
Yeah.
So I've learned that that's not the case. You have to your diet has so much to do with your performance. So if you think that these guys at the highest level aren't dieting, then it's just wrong because it has so much to do with how you perform, just like with bodybuilding, and then it's just the volume, the powerlifting volume. It's something totally different. When I started, I was used to a higher volume in bodybuilding. A lot higher volume. So when I got into powerlifting, we started off with a low volume, and I was like, okay. So
does Jeff do all your programming?
So Jeff does all my programming with when I'm in a bodybuilding prep. Okay. So right now with the powerlifting, because Candido's here locally, we're able to meet up with each other. Yep. We train at the same gym locally, so he's been doing my programming for powerlifting.
Cool.
And once I get back to bodybuilding, that's when I'm going to get more into the bodybuilding split. Versus now it's more of just real specificity on just the big three,
totally.
the big three.
Yeah.
So. And I've already built a base, with a lot of accessory movements throughout the years.
Yep.
So I'm thinking just with this focus on the big three, and I still do a lot of bodybuilding accessories. Yep. So ultimately the goal that I got into this is that when I come back into bodybuilding, that there's just going to be
some hard muscle
density that's just like, that's just so noticeable, man. So, that's what I'm shooting for.
That's sweet. All right, man. Let's wrap this up with a little rapid fire Q&A. Just some quick ones to throw at you. So first one, best lifts, big three.
Big three. What is the numbers? Are we talking about numbers?
Yeah. Squat, bench, deadlift. What have you hit?
All right. So we're at 534 on the squat. We are at 452 on the bench and 716 on the deadlift.
That's sick. Good numbers. So when you're in bodybuilding, what is your favorite body part to train? Well, I guess you're doing upper, lower, but what kind of gets you excited? Like chest,
the
back?
wheels, man, the legs and back, man. Shows are won from the back.
Yeah, totally. Obviously your diet's a little more flexible right now, but what's your favorite like cheat meal or something that you're like, if I'm gonna fit this in, what is it?
Man, you ain't gonna like this, man, but it's a fish fillet sandwich with extra cheese and extra tartar sauce from McDonald's.
Oh, dude.
I love it, man.
That's nasty.
Oh, man, come
on. Biggest pet peeve in the gym?
Biggest pet peeve in the gym, goddamn. Man, You know what? I got love for everybody.
That's good. That's good. That's a good answer. Any injuries you've dealt with, especially with powerlifting? Anything that's kind of nagged you, or anything big that kind of hit you?
Biggest injury in my bodybuilding and powerlifting career before I got into bodybuilding, 2010, I tore my pec. Tore my right pec.
When? What were you doing?
Bro, bench pressing.
Nice. Super wide elbows.
Pre-workout to the head. No warm up. 225 and
Boom.
rep. Boom. Done. And that's when I realized, no, I'm doing something wrong here.
Something not right.
Doing something wrong. So I had to get that repaired and hadn't looked back since, man.
Sweet. That's awesome. What are you taking supplement-wise?
Supplement-wise, very simple, man. Creatine, fish oil.
Yep.
Branch chain aminos when I'm cutting. I usually don't mess with them in the off season. Multivitamins. That's really my simple stack, man. I hardly take anything else.
No protein
I just
shakes?
feel like, just don't really take much else. The aminos. Sometimes I give my water some flavor with aminos, but I don't really feel like I need it that much. Yep. Crazy thing is, I was so scared to take. I've only been doing creatine monohydrate for maybe the last 6 years, man. Nice. Oh yeah, I did. I used to be. I thought that I used to read articles about kidney this, and this, that, third, and I feel like that is backed up scientifically. Not the kid, just creatine. I think that there is a lot of evidence and research that shows that there is, that you are going to make a lot of gains with that.
Yeah.
And then there's really not that much research that has any proof that it is any harmful issues to the kidney and stuff like that. So it's my go-to right there, man.
Sweet. Last one. What's your biggest, one or two pieces of advice for the new lifter, the new bodybuilder coming into the game? What do you got for them?
So I would say, and it's going to sound cliche, but patience.
Yeah. And
don't get caught up in the hype. Because the hype will take you off of your course, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So stay on your course and just trust that, because, it's in anything, in bodybuilding, you are who you are. And if you try to chase the next, even, I remember Jeff told me, I remember there was a pose that Marshall Johnson, if you're familiar with Marshall, he's a seasoned natural pro. He's one of the best. Yep. And there's his front lat spread. He has a unique way of doing it.
Okay.
And it just looks amazing. So I tried to change my entire front lat spread to match that, because I knew I was going to be going against him.
Yeah.
And that was it. Just looked disgusting on me. You know what I'm saying? It looked like shit. And Jeff was like, he has weaknesses that you don't have. And that's one of his ways of kind of etching his weaknesses.
Yep.
But you can't try to match what he's doing, because you have other ways to outmatch him. So you just have to trust what you got and use that. So
totally
with anything, man, it's just don't get too caught up in the hype and just trust. Stay in your pocket, man.
That's sweet. Awesome. Right on, man. All right, man. Plug your Instagram and everything. Where can people find you?
They can find me on let me think about that. @_VWill on Instagram, man. I'm on Facebook, Vernon Williams Jr.
Yep.
And I might be on the YouTube scene real soon.
Now we're talking.
Candido keeps talking me into that direction. So we'll see how it goes.
That's cool. Awesome, man. Well, this was good. This was really, really good. I'm happy we were able to line this up. What are you training today?
Man, we got upper, man. We got some bench action. A lot of bench action, and then I'm just gonna do a little bodybuilding, little split, little curls,
nice,
little pull-ups, nothing crazy, man. 2 weeks out, I can't get too nuts. I gotta stay in the zone, man.
Totally. What's your setup at home like? What do you got for equipment?
Oh man, I got a nice little setup. So I got a Rogue RML, what is it? An RML 420, I want to say, power rack.
Yep.
Got pound plates. I got a pull-up bar. I got a glute ham bridge, and nice. I'm waiting on a lat machine, lat pull-down machine.
Yep.
And loving that. So it's cool to have. I'm considering getting a combo rack, powerlifting combo rack, but I don't know yet, man. We'll see. It depends on how this next meet goes, right?
Totally. All right, man. Well, you have a good rest of your day. Enjoy your session, and we'll be in touch soon.
All right. Good talking to you, man.
See you, buddy.
All right.